So now in today's lecture, we are going to cover these three topics. That is the angle of friction, angle of repose, cone of friction, and one more thing that already we have studied in previous lecture, that is the coefficient of friction mu. Okay, so in today's lecture, we are going to learn about the interrelationship between all of this. How these all things are interrelated with each other. That thing we are going to learn in today's lecture. That thing we are going to explore in today's lecture. Okay. So in previous lecture, we have seen the various laws of friction. Now, while studying the laws of friction, we came to know that whatever the surface is there, that surface is in contact with the body. Whatever the body you are having, that surface is in contact with your object, and both surfaces have a friction with each other. These both surfaces have a friction with each other. Now this body has its self weight, and that self weight will directed in downward direction. The self weight, that is W, will be always directed in downward direction, while as the normal reaction is always directed in upward direction. This weight will always be in downward direction, while as your normal reaction will always be in upward direction. This one is your normal reaction now. That will be your N. Okay, but here how the N will be? N will be perpendicular to the surface. N will always be perpendicular to the surface in contact. So therefore, N will be like this. N will be making a perpendicular angle with this. Okay, N will be making a 90-degree angle with this surface in contact. This angle is 90. Okay, so the N will be like this here. Okay, now you have to, what you can do, you can also split this W component into the two components. Okay, you can draw one parallel line to the surface line. This line is your horizontal line, which is parallel to the x-axis. This is your surface line. Now you can also split this W into the two components. You can split this W into two components. One component will be like this. One component will be perpendicular to the surface, and next component will be parallel to the surface. Next component will be parallel to the surface, and here your angle will be here 90 degree. Angle will be again 90 degree. So the resolution of this W is important. Resolution of W is important. You note this thing, that this angle is your theta. This angle is theta. Okay, and this angle will be similar to this angle. That is the angle of inclination. Angle of inclination of the surface. So both angles will be similar here. Okay, now after that, after splitting this W, you know that sine of theta is equal to opposite upon hypotenuse. For this triangle, if we see opposite upon hypotenuse, so your hypotenuse is nothing but the W. Hypotenuse is this one, your W. Okay. And the two components will be now cos of theta is equal to opposite upon hypotenuse. Cos of theta here. This side is your opposite side. Okay. And hypotenuse is W. Hypotenuse is this one, W. Okay. Adjacent side to this angle is this one. Okay. So therefore, simply you can remember that this one will be your W cos of theta. W cos of theta, right? Adjacent divided by hypotenuse will be cos of theta. So therefore, your adjacent side will be equal to W cos of theta. Okay. Now, opposite upon hypotenuse. This is the thing we cover in trigonometry normally. So opposite upon hypotenuse is sine of theta, and therefore opposite side will be equal to hypotenuse multiplied by sine of theta. So hypotenuse is W. So therefore, this opposite component of the W will be W sine of theta. W sine of theta. W sine of theta. So now you able to get the two components of the weight W. Okay, you able to get the two components of weight W. One is W cos of theta, which is perpendicular to the surface, and one is the W sine theta. W sine theta is parallel to surface, while as W cos of theta, this one is perpendicular to the surface, and W sine theta is parallel to the surface. So we got the two components, and these two components are most important as far as the resolution takes place in the numerical of friction. In the numerical of friction, your more than 50% numericals will be like this. You have to resolve the W into two components. One is W cos of theta and one is W sine theta. Okay. Now, after that, your body is resting here. Remember this thing. Your body is resting here. What is the definition of angle of repose? What is the definition of angle of repose? Angle of repose means what? The maximum inclination. The maximum inclination which is body can be subjected without sliding. Okay. The maximum inclination of the plane surface which can, on which body can be stable, on which body can be stable. So this is the definition of your angle of repose. Now this angle of repose will be here theta, means maximum inclination this body can be remain stable. Now if you increase the 1 degree beyond this, then your body will be sliding down. Okay, so therefore the movement of body will be in downward direction, in this direction, downward direction. Therefore, according to the first law of friction, your friction should be always opposite to the direction of motion. So if your body is moving in downward direction, in this direction, if your body is moving in downward direction, means tends to move in downward direction. This body is not moving. This is in stable condition. But if we increase the 1 degree, then the body will move in downward direction. Body will not move in upward direction. Body will slide down. So therefore, the friction will be in opposite direction. So therefore, friction will be in upward direction. Remember this thing. Your body is going down, friction will move up. Means friction will be in opposite direction to the motion. So therefore, you have to write the frictional force will be in this direction. Frictional force will be in always downward direction. That we have to show here as a capital F, which is the force of friction. Okay. And your normal reaction is in upward direction. Upward means what? Perpendicular to the surface. Here, your normal reaction is in upward direction. Upward means vertically upward. This is your vertically upward. Okay. Normal reaction is not in vertically upward direction. It is in perpendicular to the inclined surface. Remember this thing. Here we have shown this angle as 90 degree, perpendicular to the surface. Okay. So therefore, from this equation, what we can write, that tan of theta, this angle, tan of theta. Now you can extend this one. You can extend this one. You can extend this line up to here. Now one more triangle will get formed here. Okay. And your this triangle will have this angle as 90 degree. This angle as 90 degree. Okay. Your this angle is also 90 degree. Now in this triangle below, tan of theta is equal to here opposite side will be this n divided by adjacent. So adjacent side will be your f, right? So opposite side will be n and adjacent side will be your f. So this will be n divided by f, n divided by f. So we can write here tan of theta is equal to one little correction is there. Direction of friction. Your friction will be in upward direction. Your friction will be in this direction, that is in upward direction. Okay, this correction is there because your body is moving downward. So therefore, your friction will move in upward direction. Friction will move in upward direction. Okay. Now here, tan of theta will be opposite divided by the adjacent. Okay. So in the upper triangle, you can see here, tan of theta will be equal to opposite is W sine of theta divided by adjacent, which is W cos of theta. Okay. So you can write here as W sine of theta divided by W cos of theta. From the upper triangle, from this triangle, we can write this as tan of theta is equal to opposite upon adjacent, which is W sine theta divided by W cos of theta. And therefore, your W sine theta will be equivalent to the F, right? Because the weight component is balanced by the force. weight component is balanced by the force. So here you can use the condition of equilibrium, means your body is in stable condition. Here this block is in stable condition, neither moving downward nor moving upward. So therefore you can use here condition of equilibrium, that is summation of fx is equal to 0 and summation of fy is equal to 0. Okay, summation of fx is equal to 0 means here for inclined plane you can use w sine of theta, which is in opposite direction. So therefore minus w sine theta plus f is in positive x direction. Currently you have assumed this as inclined plane. So therefore for this inclined plane you have assumed this sign convention here. Remember this thing, that for this condition you have assumed this as positive and this as positive x-axis and positive y-axis. Here you assume this one as negative and this one as negative. Okay, so this sign convention you are currently using for particular this block that is in inclined condition. Okay, so therefore by using this sign convention your w sine theta will be in negative direction because it is towards the negative x-axis. So therefore minus of w sine theta, f is in positive x direction. Here you can see this f is in positive x direction. So therefore minus w sine theta plus f will be equal to 0 and therefore your f will be equal to w sine theta, right? You can write this thing here as minus w sine theta plus f is equal to 0, right? This is your first equation, and from this equation you can write here as f is equal to w sine of theta. From this equation you can write here as f is equal to w sine of theta. Okay, from this first condition. Now let's move towards the second one, that is summation of fy is equal to 0. Now in y direction you can see that w cos of theta, which is going in downward direction. So therefore w cos of theta will have a negative sign. Here you can see this negative sign. Okay, and n is moving in upward direction. That is the normal reaction. Normal reaction is moving in upward direction. So therefore minus w cos theta plus n will be equal to 0. Okay, so here you can write this as minus w cos of theta plus n will be equal to 0. Will be equal to 0. And here you can also write that n will be equal to w cos of theta. N will be equal to w cos of theta. Now we got w sine theta and w cos of theta. W sine theta and w cos theta. Okay, now divide equation number 1 and equation number 2. Okay, what we get? W sine theta divided by w cos theta, right? W sine of theta divided by w cos of theta will be equal to f divided by n. Will be equal to f divided by n. This equation we will get here, and from this equation what we get, that W will get cancelled here. Remember this thing. Your this W and this W will get cancelled, and sine theta divided by cos of theta, you will get tan of theta. You will get tan of theta. So therefore, tan of theta will be equal to F divided by N. Tan of theta will be equal to F divided by N. Okay. But yesterday we have seen that F divided by N is equal to mu. Yesterday what we have seen? We have seen the angle of friction, and definition of angle of friction is what? As your force increases, your theta also increases, right? What is the angle of friction? Yesterday we have seen one diagram, right? Yesterday we have seen such diagram, and when force is applied in this direction, then what happens? That you are having one normal reaction in upward direction. Okay, one normal reaction in upward direction, and as your force is applied in this direction, therefore in opposite direction you are having the force of friction. In opposite direction you are having the force of friction, which is F, and this one is your N. So therefore this F and N will have a resultant, and that resultant will be directed in this direction. This one is the R, and the angle made by this resultant with normal reaction is nothing but your theta, is nothing but theta, and that theta is your angle of friction. And the expression for that angle of friction is tan of alpha will be equal to F divided by N, right? So here tan of alpha will be equal to F divided by N. So therefore this angle is your alpha, not theta. This angle is your alpha here. This angle is alpha, and tan of alpha is equal to F divided by N. Now what is your F? F, you can draw it parallel here. You can draw this F as parallel here, and N you can also write here because N is vertical. So therefore F divided by N here is opposite divided by adjacent, and that is nothing but the tan of alpha. Here you can write this tan of alpha, and here also you are getting tan of theta is equal to F by N. Okay, tan of theta is equal to F by N. So this proves that your alpha is equal to theta. This proves that your angle of repose is equal to angle of friction. This proves that your angle of repose is equal to angle of friction. Angle of repose is equal to angle of friction is been proved here. This thing is been proved here. So therefore theta is equal to alpha. Both are having the F by N value. Both are having the F by N value. Okay, this has been proved, and your F by N is also the tan of alpha, and tan of alpha is also we called it as a mu. Also we called it as mu, which is nothing but coefficient of friction, mu. So therefore this will also be equal to the mu. This will also be equal to mu, which is nothing but the coefficient of friction. Coefficient of friction means what exactly it is? It is equal to the F by N. F by N is equal to mu. That is equal to tan of alpha. So we can write here as new thing that tan of alpha is equal to tan of theta equal to the mu. We can write this thing as tan of alpha equal to tan of theta is equal to mu. So this new thing we can write here, new equation we can write here, and all this thing is very much important as far as our numericals are considered. As far as our numericals are considered. Okay. Now after that, what we will do, we will see what is the cone of friction. What is the cone of friction? Now cone of friction means what? If we rotate this thing, that is the reaction R, along with the N here, then a cone will be formed, and that cone will be your nothing but the cone of friction. If such cone is formed, and now this cone, whatever the cone will be forming here, this cone will be the cone of friction. This cone will be nothing but the cone of friction. So I hope that you get cleared all these terms. What is the cone of friction? What is the angle of repose? What is the angle of friction? How we calculate these various inclined forces? How we split this W into two components, W sin theta as